What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical average American here today to react and learn about why do Canadians act so different from Americans? Yeah, Canadians. Don't you want to be more like Americans? do not answer that question. Do not answer that. I can already hear the responses just being facetious. But honestly, this sounded like a very interesting topic to learn more about and hear Canadians' responses to. So, the background to this is a fellow American posed this question on Reddit for Canadians to answer. I just spent a month in Canada. Why are Canadians so calm, so polite, and informed? The contrast with the US was dramatic. So this American went to Canada. Their mind was blown by how decent people are. Kind of sad to think about like life in the United States when Americans are just traveling to Canada and our minds are blown like, wait, people are like respectful and intelligent, and it's like, what is this strange land? And it's so I'm actually quite interested to hear about what Canadians think. What is the reason behind this amazing, honestly very positive, good phenomenon? And I guess part of this is Canada and the United States are obviously very close geographically, and a lot of people around the world, I would expect, don't really understand the different how different Canada and the United States really are. Not just that we have different stuff, but that Canadian people literally behave differently, have different values and social norms and customs to Americans. And some of the explanation behind some of that stuff. So let's take a look at some of these comments. Everyone is better behaved when guests are over. Wait, what? Everyone is better behaved when guests are over. Is this saying Canadians are only polite? Like when from the outside, like if you're a guest going to Canada, they're Canadians are on their best behavior. The dishes have been piling up since they left. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. This I can't tell if this is being sarcastic. Maybe it's kind of saying if I'm taking the philosophical analysis of this comment, it's saying that yeah, Canada is like in general better behaved than the United States. Not that that's saying much, but the grass is always greener on the other side or something. We're high. It's true. Oh my gosh, this is Reddit, so I should have expected some trolling. Maybe this is the answer. Maybe it's not trolling. Is this the answer, Canada? You're nice and more introspective and polite and calm because everyone is high because it's legal. Okay. I'm going to desperately try to get to some serious answers here. Our culture is kind of rooted in those traits. And being polite and nice is one of our national myths, which, while not always true, is a great myth to build a country around. That actually poses an interesting question for me. Like, Canadians must be aware of their reputation. That the reputation, or a stereotype, honestly, that Canadians are very nice, very polite, always kind, polite, humble people. And do Canadians feel like a need to try to live up to that? Like, although I do expect that is the truth. Like, there's no need to live up to it because in general there is a truth to that. But on top of it, do Canadians feel like, because Canadians are just obviously human beings and people, have bad days and can get upset about stuff, and that's normal and should happen. So do Canadians feel like an undue pressure, especially to foreigners visiting, to kind of keep up that very high standard? I wonder. Historically, English Canadians were part of the UK, we inherited the UK's fondness for order. Yeah, I know the UK is very, like, also pretty respectful. Like, they do queuing, where you're waiting in line. Like, people in the UK really, really, really respect the queue. You don't cut in line, you wait your turn. It's very orderly. So, Canada kind of inherited a bit of that culture. That makes sense. Their distaste for conflict. Yep. We have vast stretches of land that is generally cold. So we are, in general, welcoming and willing to help each other out. Oh, this reminds me of something a long time ago I heard. There's something to this, I think, where Canadians, because of the colder climate and the really intense winters, like Canadians get in trouble. Like your cars get stuck. It can be difficult to get places. You can get in some dangerous situations just based on the colder climate. So Canadians like are kind of more used to being in these extreme situations and having to help each other out and band together and have like a common respect and love for each other to survive. So that would explain it as well. Okay, I like that. I like that. There is enough space to live and let live and still work together to create good contributions for the society. Both French and English Canadians have a collective ethos of being community minded rather than overly individualistic. Yeah, man. This seems like a really, really big difference between Canada and the United States as well. The being community minded. I truly believe in the United States, for better or worse. We're taught to focus on yourself, take care of yourself, hustle, grind, get ahead, do whatever it takes, worry about yourself. And that's definitely in the minds of a lot of Americans in American culture. So I think as a society, we're a little less empathetic. We don't respect each other's personal space and personal boundaries as much. People will be loud and, voice their opinions and like annoy, like randomly on the street will kind of bug you or annoy you and just be not as polite in general, not always holding doors open. It stems to many, many, many things, I think, in our culture, both big and small. But I think it all kind of comes back to that American mindset of like, worry about yourself. And that's literally the opposite of what a community is. Like, when you live in a community, like all countries do, you should be community minded, and we're a little bit of the opposite. So I think that might explain a lot of it as well. Interesting. Man, this has got me a bit introspective today, this topic, which I enjoy, honestly. Our government was founded based on peace, order, and good governance. Huh. That's right. Canada, like Canada's founding, literally, like wasn't all I don't know my history that great, but it wasn't nearly as violent as America's founding, right? The American like war with Britain, the Revolutionary War, and having to like fight and kill for our independence. Whereas Canada was like, well, literally, there's Victoria Day, Queen Victoria, like someone, literally a queen of like Britain, helped further Canada's independence in a very non-violent way. So, literally, the founding of Canada was more peaceful. Um, Although I'm sure there's a lot of conflicts that I am not aware of or not remembering. All our rights are in place unless they need to be limited by limits justified in a free and democratic society. We're willing to bend more for the good of the society and don't push ourselves above everyone else. That's an interesting thought as well. Yeah, yeah, that's definitely the American way, the American culture to be like, government better not do it. Like the only thing that matters is me. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the American kind of headspace we're in. And again, probably not the most optimal way of living life when you're trying to focus on having a good, nice, loving, respectful community. So these topics are all making a lot of sense to me for how Canadians are just in general more community minded than Americans. I think that's a huge one. The Americans, on the other hand, were founded on life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Their rights are inalienable. Much more important to look out for yourself. Exactly. We also compare ourselves constantly to the Americans, so to see their messiness and try to avoid that, I can't blame you. I can't blame you. If only America could see our messiness and make adjustments based on that, wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something? The calmness is because we need to store fat for the winter, like bears. Not being calm is wasting calories. Silly me getting all philosophical and introspective when the truth of the matter was right in front of me the whole time. If only I had just thought about it a little deeper. It's because Canadians need to store fat. No time to be quarreling amongst yourselves. Oh my god. The politeness is a filter to tell if a random stranger is from around here or not. Now that I can't tell if that's a joke or not. I think that obviously it's trying to be funny, but there is some truth to the joke, isn't there? Like Canadians probably can tell, like for instance, if they're in the presence of an American, not just by how they talk, but the way they talk about things and like their politeness level, I guess, for lack of a better word. What else do we have here? These are fascinating answers. Like this really, I really am enjoying this quite a bit. Canada was formed by a vote to become independent. USA was formed by fighting a bloody war for independence. Exactly. I'm glad somebody commented and kind of laid it out like that. I was wondering about this. That there is truth. I don't know, like how much did this actually affect like the culture of Canada versus the culture of the United States? Like how we became independent. It had to affect it on some level. Like I'm actually real curious about that. Canada was formed in a peaceful way. So as Canadians are a bit more peaceful. Like I know I'm generalizing, but that's kind of what we have to do sometimes. Just to talk about it. And the USA was formed in conflict. And Americans are definitely more conflicting and willing to have conflict. Not physical conflict, but verbal conflict and stuff like that. So, fascinating. Fascinating way to look at it, actually. Interesting. Having lived in both countries, I'd say the clearest differentiation for me is that Americans are focused and obsessed with winning. That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Definitely. Yeah. Like as little Americans growing up, it is oftentimes all about being the best in your classroom, the best on your sports team, the best at something. While Canadians are focused and obsessed with fairness. Wow. That's not to say Canadians don't want to win, but winning at all costs is likely off the table. America is built on winners and losers, us versus them. Very true. Very true. Americans definitely do prioritize winning. And I know that's kind of a vague way to put it. But yes, in general with stuff, Americans certainly want to win. And man, that it's kind of inevitable that that kind of mindset will affect your whole culture and how people interact with each other. Man, I didn't expect these comments to be so like philosophical and introspective and all that. This is great. Another big difference is healthcare. Yes, there are issues, but nationalized healthcare, like in Canada, means everyone has everyone's back. Makes a kinder society. Very good point. Very good point. Yeah, that literally reinforces some of these topics, some of these ideas that we've been talking about. The healthcare. For one thing, Americans are probably just a bit more unhappy people in general a little more fend for ourselves in general just because of some of our social policies that are different than Canada, like our healthcare being very much like you better get your health insurance. Like you better find out a way personally to financially take care of your healthcare. Whereas in Canada, it's like, okay, we're all paying taxes, we're all generating money to help each other when each other is in need. Whereas in America, it's like, okay, everyone figure it out. Everyone go off on your own, figure out a way to get your health insurance plan, figure out a way to get a job or make enough money to take care of that. And that seeps into the culture and how people act with other things. And like in Canada, it sounds like there's a lot more work-life balance, like more days off as mandated by the government. In America, there's not really any limit or rules on how many sick days or vacation days a job has to give you. So again, you feel that just makes you a little more, gives you a bit of a different attitude towards like daily life, I guess, in your relationship to work, where Canadians are probably a bit more happier on average just because of that. Yeah, there's probably a lot of stuff like that, honestly. Wow. Man. I would partly credit the calming influence of a major news provider that is not driven by profits and the constant need to enrage to engage. Oh, good little zipper here. Enrage to engage. So, okay. I don't know much about Canadian news, Canadian media outlets and news providers, but American media is definitely, literally at this point, built on like clickbait headlines, making people mad to engage and click on the headline to watch something. I think anger has been determined to be one of the most powerful motivators to get someone to watch something or to engage in something. So the American media definitely utilizes that. While the media landscape has changed greatly in the past decades, CBC television and radio still play a significant role in informing Canadians about national and regional issues. The CBC, yeah, I've watched CBC news clips on like YouTube and stuff, and it's always been real great and like not much bias that I can see, but you know, yeah, that's getting into stuff that there's just no way I'm gonna have any clue about. But I'd be hard pressed to believe that the Canadian media can be much more divisive than the American media. The American media is literally built upon making people mad and divided, and so that people will engage and watch and outrage and all that. And that also definitely affects Americans and how we behave, for sure. It's amazing how much more calm people are when guns are taken out of the equation. Sadly, at this point, trying to take guns out of the American equation would literally cause war, because you're trying to take away a bunch of literal guns from people who don't want to give them up. And yeah, as an American myself, like I think I'm a little more tolerant towards guns in general. Obviously a product of my upbringing, but I am pretty alarmed, and like I really don't like how easy it is to get guns in America, and how the criteria to get the guns is so low. You should have to pass exams, you should have to pass safety tests, you should have to recertify that you know what you are doing with the gun. Every year, get a license. It's like it's a car or something. Prove that you are worthy of owning the gun. Instead, in America, it is literally so easy that that's probably the scary part. The scary part is how easy it is. Yeah. Anyway, this ran the gambit of topics, all stemming from the question of why do Canadians act so different from Americans? And Seems to me there's a lot of really great answers about that. It's just a product of how different our priorities are in Canada versus the United States, a difference in our values, a difference in our respect towards each other, a difference in how comfortable we are with some of our social welfare policies and healthcare, and so much stuff determines it. But when you add it all up, it actually makes a lot of sense to me now why Canadians are, as this commenter first put it, more calm, more polite, more respectful. Makes a lot of sense to me now. It's obvious. So I actually really, really enjoyed this. This was a great, fascinating little introspective sort of conversation. So yeah, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment, perhaps with why you think Canadians are so different from Americans in a good way, honestly. Let me say that in the best ways. Different in the best ways, honestly. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada and Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.